conduct from the committee's last hearing. 2 weeks ago, the minority's witness, Christopher Monckton, argued that there have been 3 distinct periods of warming in the past 150 years, and that the rates of warming in each of these periods were parallel. He demonstrated that both the EPA and the IPCC were wrong to claim that the rate of warming in the most recent period was higher than the 2 previous periods of warming. Finally, he questioned whether CO2 was the most likely cause of warming if previous temperature rises were identical when atmospheric concentrations of CO2 were much lower than they are today. Neither the majority nor its witnesses responded to any of these arguments. Instead, they attacked Lord Monckton for not presenting scientific information, even though he clearly did. They ridiculed his name, and they wrongly accused him of falsifying his credentials and then refused to allow him to respond. I encourage everybody to read the transcript or watch the video on the committee's website. It was bullying and it was embarrassing. As Lord Monckton said in response, a certain amount of politics has crept in on one side of this debate, and therefore inconvenient science has been dismissed as not being science at all. I want to be clear that not all members of the majority stoop to these levels, and I thank the chairman in particular for his professionalism. But the politicization of science from some members of the committee is a legitimate threat to scientific understanding. Sadly, last week's hearing echoed the shameful culture exposed by the ClimateGate emails. ClimateGate revealed a scientific culture that is more interested in defending its findings than in finding truth. It showed some of the most prominent scientists in the world actively working to sabotage legitimate scientists who dared to challenge their work. The majority repeatedly tried to dismiss the ClimateGate emails, but no number of politically motivated studies will change what the emails actually say. And I want to read a few quotes. Quote, "I tried to balance the needs of the science and the IPCC, which were not always the same," unquote. Quote, "There is pressure to present a nice, tidy story as regards apparent unprecedented warming in 1,000 years or more in the proxy data. But in reality, the situation is not quite so simple," unquote. Quote, "If you think that Sayers is in the greenhouse skeptic camp, then if we can find documentary evidence of this, we could go through official AGU channels to get him ousted," unquote. "I got a paper to review written by a Korean guy and someone from Berkeley that claims that the method of reconstruction that we use in dendroclimatology is wrong, biased, lousy, horrible, etc. If published as is, this paper could really do some damage. It won't be easy to dismiss out of hand, as the math appears to be correct theoretically. I am really sorry, but I have to nag about that review. Confidentially, I now need a hard and, if required, extensive case for rejecting," unquote. Quote, "I can't see either of these papers being in the next IPCC report. Kevin and I will keep them out somehow, even if we have to define what the peer review literature is," unquote. There are literally thousands of these. These emails expose an intolerant scientific culture, and they raise legitimate questions about the strength of the so-called scientific consensus. The minority witness today is Dr. William Happer. He is the Cyrus Fogg Brackett Professor of Physics at Princeton University and a member of the American Physical Society and the National Academy of Sciences. He has spent his professional career studying the interactions of visible and infrared radiation with gases, which are the physical phenomena behind the greenhouse effect. Dr. Happer has long argued that increased accumulations of CO2 will not lead to the temperature increases that the IPCC predicts, and that the results of climate change will not be as catastrophic as claimed. Dr. Happer is very familiar with the politicization of science. Al Gore fired him from the Department of Energy because of his beliefs. In a criticism of then Vice President Gore, Ted Koppel, no conservative, said, quote, "The measure of good science is neither the politics of the scientist nor the people with whom the scientist associates. It is the immersion of hypotheses into the acid of truth. That's the hard way to do it, but it's the only way that works, unquote. Finding errors in data and critiquing scientific work is the legitimate path to truth. Ridicule and attempts to besmirch reputations have no place in this debate, and I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from